All right, we're in a longleaf pine ecosystem. There's a lot of longleaf pines and there's a lot of green vegetation. But if you thought it was that simple, you'd be wrong, because here there's more than meets the eye. I hiked along this little run of water known as a seepage, and I'm in a habitat known as a seepage bog. If you look out here, you'll see that this vegetation right behind me is totally different than the vegetation just over there. There's two reasons for that. One, we're a little bit lower in elevation and it's a little bit more waterlogged. And the second reason is the soils are a bit different. Here, plants need special adaptations to survive, and one of those extremely diabolical adaptations is carnivory. Let's take a closer look at one of the plants with a particularly gruesome form of adaptation. Let's check it out. Last season, you might remember when we talked about the yellow pitcherplant. It was a 3-foot tall, kind of showy example of carnivory in a plant, but in my opinion, it's not as cool as this. This is the hooded pitcherplant. It gets its name from the curved hood that sits over the lip, but the coolest feature of this species is what's on the back of the throat of the pitcher. You see these little white spots? Those are called light windows, and their function is for light to shine through and trick the insect that this pitcher captures. Let's say you're an ant, and you crawl up this pitcher, and you fall into the lip. Well, when you get inside, you might think, I'm about to be doomed. But then you start feeling the spirit of survival, and you think, all right, hallelujah, hallelujah, because you see these light windows, and you think you've got a way out. And so the bug goes up against these, and then it slips and falls and begins the process of being slowly digested alive. Why is this plant so diabolical? Well, if you look here, you'll see there's a bed of pine needles, longleaf pine needles, that sit atop a really acidic soil. So the acidity of these plus the acidity of the soil makes it really hard for plants to grow. That's why you don't see a whole lot of other plants here. And so this plant is specially adapted to growing in these conditions. It's just an amazing example of evolution. And I could probably talk and look at this plant for a lot longer, but I just looked over there and my friend Lily, who's out with me today, just found something awesome. So we're gonna go check that out. Let's go, let's go.
This segment brought to you by the Magnolia chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. To learn more about the work it's doing to promote the preservation, conservation, and restoration of the native plants and native plant communities in Florida, visit magnolia.fnpschapters.org.